My name is Louis Anthony Cairo. I am an owner and trial attorney here at GWC Injury Lawyers, LLC. We had the honor of representing Jay Daniels, who was a Local 1 iron worker, who was a great father, great husband, represented his wife as well on her loss of consortium case. Just really good, hardworking, blue-collar American people. Ultimately what happened was my client was in the process of climbing up on top of the Doka wall form, and his job was to tie the rebar column into the Doka wall form. When he climbed his way up on top of the Doka wall form, which was about 24 or 25 feet tall, he had nowhere to ultimately tie off to. And in the ironworker trade, it's very important for everyone to understand that unless there is an actual OSHA approved anchorage point, you don't just tie off to anything with your lanyard, because a false tie could be worse than no tie at all. Meaning you thought you tied onto something that could hold your weight, but ultimately what you tied off to can't hold your weight. So when he gets to the top of the Doka wall form, he recognizes that there's nowhere for him to tie off to, and so he's trying to figure it out. Moments go by. Unfortunately, he slips, his feet slip from underneath him, and he falls 23.5 feet down onto the hard concrete slab that was below him. And he falls backwards, and there's cross beams that help support the Doka wall form from staying upright. He hits his arm on it and ends up having devastating injuries. The biggest obstacle we knew as a firm that we were going to have to overcome was, why was our client not tied off? And we knew if we were able to overcome the reason as to why he did not tie himself off on that Doka wall form, we knew that this case was going to ultimately just hinge on the damages itself. Because the damages were so incredible, they were so severe, that if we won on the liability side, we were going to hit a home run. The defense attorneys that represented the actual defendants in this case were lawyers that we've had on other cases. So they were well-respected defense attorneys. They were well-respected by our office, and they knew as well as we did that if they could point the finger at our client and that he failed to tie off, that they may actually have a pretty good shot at winning this case. So despite the fact that we respected them and we could even consider them friends, it was a contentious and aggressive litigation from both sides, because everybody knew if we won or lost on liability, it was going to change the dynamic and the trajectory of the case. So we needed to find a way to truly paint a picture for the jury. Words on a paper only mean so much, but when you actually see it in a recreation, it has that shock and awe effect. So we started right away with working with DK Global, doing the actual animations for the different procedures that our client had, while also doing the animation regarding how this accident could have been prevented had the defendants have done what they were supposed to do by showing the right way versus wrong way in which they had done this work. Both from a liability standpoint and from a damages point, we worked with DK Global very early on to really drive home the failures on the defense's part and drive home the magnitude and extent of the injuries that our client sustained. This case was a little bit different because we litigated the case for 3 years. We really became friends with our clients. You saw the difficulties that he had, and although we're lawyers, we're humans as well. And to be able to look our client in the eye and tell him, we just settled your case for $40 million, and it's life-changing money. We've been working with DK Global since the very inception of this case, because I think if you start working when you're staring down the barrel of a trial date, you've been doing yourself and your client a disservice. You need to start working with DK Global regarding their animations and recreations of their accidents very early on in the case, because you may want to even use that throughout the actual depositions that are being taken, which I think are ultimately vital.